about today was, who am I? And why is it the only question, or one of the more important questions, at least for me? And yeah, so what I experienced in my own experience was that once I was outside the body and I was in this space, I was really like my true self, my true essence. And a lot of people, you might have heard this, they speak of when they cross over and into the light or see the light, near the light, they speak of it as if they're coming home. And a lot of them, when you ask really deep, you'll say, well, it felt as if I was coming home to a place I knew, but it was like coming home to me, myself. So from that, we can kind of conclude that maybe we have a higher self, you know, our ultimate self or something is out there, and maybe that's part of this light, maybe that's part of God. And that is really where we return to our true self. And when you ask people in near-death experience, when you really kind of interview them, you know, some people will say, well, I was in a car crash, and or I was in a frightening situation just before I died, or I was drowning and I knew this was it. But as soon as I crossed over, there was peace. And then some people, some people are still a little distressed on the other side. They'll go through these distressing experiences. Others will be in a kind of waiting room where it's a little bit dark, there's a darkness. Some people go straight to positive, but a lot of people, they kind of have the first landing place is a kind of place where they're not sure where they are, it's a little bit dark. They might have a distressing experience, they might have distressing life reviews. They, even, you know, a small percentage, they will describe these experiences like as hellish. While it is different from, you know, kind of the dogmatic interpretation from religion. But what happens is the longer they stay, this is what I'm finding in my research, it's, you know, I haven't concluded yet, something I need more, you know, a lot more on. But when you ask them, the longer they stay, they kind of say, well, I was disoriented in the beginning, but then all of a sudden, it was like, I knew where I was, I recognized where I was. And this place was a return to myself, my true self. And so based on this, I kind of conclude that, that's my conclusion, that what's on the other side is our ultimate higher self or something like that. And I therefore try to, through research, to make a connection to our true self here, because it's part of us here, what we experience on the other side. And that's really where you can see, if you look at the spiritual traditions, let's start with the Greeks, because they go further back. You know, the Oracle in Delphi, it's famous for having the text, know thyself. And we all know the Greeks, you know, we're still learning, you know, all their knowledge today. You know, I have a dictionary, a Greek dictionary from 1882. If you look up the word sin, you don't get like evildoer, bad guy. You get 2 pages. And it's very poetic, it's very philosophical. It is Ulysses' arrow, and he misses the target. He goes wrong. You know, I mean, the Greek, you have 2 pages. I mean, the Greek were just like, wow, their mind is, when you open this book, you're like, wow, these people were like, wow. I mean, you know, they're really big, right? So if you go back to them and you see their most sacred place was the Oracle in Delphi. And on top of that, we're told was written, know thyself. So when they tell me this, I think, well, they must know something. And then when you do the research, I mean, we know the Bible. The Bible talks about the Spirit of God. It talks about the kingdom is within you. I mean, for me, these are all kind of hints that there's something, a kingdom, there's a spirit, there's something in me that makes sense. And that really, you know, I believe that is, you know, a true self or spirit, soul, whatever you want to call it. And so it's also the same when we leave the West and when we go to the East. I have myself done a lot of meditation, a lot of vipassana. And that's basically it. When you sit down, you meditate for 10 days, okay, you get sore a lot, but at some point you arrive to, wow, this is me, this is who I am. And everything falls away, you know, the confusion, everything you had in your mind before, it falls away. You know, on day 4, 5, 6, you go deeper, deeper, and then at the end you're just like, this is me, this is who I am. And I am love, that's who I am. And that's it. And even, I'll quote a Rinpoche, a Buddhist Rinpoche. He actually says that the Buddha has 84,000 teachings, if you take all of them and count them. But this Rinpoche said you can condense all these 84,000 teachings into 3 words. Recognize your essence. And so, you know, that's really condensing Buddhism, but that's really what it is. And so I really believe when you look at all the traditions, you look at the Bible, you look at the Greeks, you look in the East, you know, you look at all the tradition, it really comes back to the question, who am I? That is, the answer to the question, who am I, is, once you answer that question, you have recognized your essence. You've done what the Buddha wanted you to do. And you have know thyself, you've done what the Greeks told us was most important too. So that is kind of why I believe that this is one of the most important questions in spirituality and in religion as well. I think spirituality is very focused on it. I mean, I want to say I've also done vision quests where you go into the sweat lodge, you sweat for about an hour or so, and then you're put in the forest for up to 4 days with no water, and at the end of 4 days, you're like, it's the same. You have a pure connection to yourself, and you come back all shining, just like a 10-day meditation retreat. It's the same thing. So the Aboriginals knew it. They know it in the East. The Greeks knew it. It's even in the Bible. So I believe, from a universal perspective, this is really, that's the core of it all. Of course, there's a lot of interesting stuff we can do. We can go into past lives and figure out I don't know if I should. How many here has been Cleopatra or somebody interesting in their past life? But it's not. I mean, myself, I've had valuable information from past life regression, and there can be stuff in past life. But sometimes, sometimes we can get a little distracted in spirituality as well, and that's why this was kind of what I meant with this title. That I think when you can go search and look for answers, and it's healthy. That your path is going to bring you what you need. But I think in the end, I think a lot of us are going to come back to this one place within us, who we really are. Because once we're there, I mean, I think the pain, the suffering, all the problems, they exist here, right? And so that's the purpose of, I mean, whether you meditate or go to church, I mean, it doesn't matter. Once you get out of the mind and into the body and you relax, you're like, it's gone, right? You don't have to do anything. You don't have to solve anything or search anything. You just come back to it, and it's there. And also, oh, I'm free of it. I'm me. I'm good. I'm love. I feel good. This is, wow, it's good. And then it's all gone, right? So it's when we go into the mind, and I've written a little bit about this on my website. It is actually St. John of the Cross. He is 13th century Christian saint. He talks about the dark night of the soul. I don't know if you have heard of it. It's a poem. It's a very beautiful poem, but there's also a text connected to it, to the poem, which is written by him. And in the text, he talks about an active and a passive night. So there are two dark nights of the soul. And the active night is when we're trying to solve, why am I sad? What's going on? Why am I feeling like this? Why? And we keep, in psychology, I don't know if anybody knows it, it's called rumination. We keep going and say, why? So we're looking for some kind of solution. But what this saint says, that the active night is going to bring us deeper into the sorrow, pain, and misery, because we're actively trying to push out something that we cannot. We're basically, in native terms, it would be we're feeding it energy. And from a native shamanic perspective, anything you feed, energy grows and becomes bigger. We all see that in politics, right? So we see how it works. But then he talks about, then there is the passive night. And so the passive night is the night where you finally let go. And he says that's when you're open to God. God can now enter, heal you, show you the way, guide you, and give you what you need. But as soon as we're active, we're ruminating, we're in the mind, we're not open to it. He can't enter. It can't enter, or our true self can't come out. So that is really, again, that brings us back again to the passive night, the meditation, the going to church, taking the walk in the forest, experiencing nature. That's it. I believe to arrive there, you don't have to do anything. You just have to let go. As soon as you let go, you are you. And you're there. You don't have to do anything. All you need to do is let go. And it's the same principle in meditation. You let go of the mind. You let go of thinking. As soon as you let go, you leave the mind and you enter the body. And as soon as you're in your body, you're like, peace. It's called liberation, enlightenment, whatever they call it. That's what it is. And so I might be oversimplifying. There might be people who disagree with me. But for me, I really think it is that simple, because it correlates with what I've studied, the religions I've looked at, and it also correlates with my study of near-death experiences. As soon as they cross over, they might be disoriented, and then as time passes, they come back to their center, come home to themselves, and they rest there, and then that's it. Not much more to say or do. That's it. You come home.